Hi, everybody.
All right. Well, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad that you are here. My name is Jackie Solomon, and I'm really, really passionate about this topic and this conversation, and I'm so glad you're here. We're going to make this part introduction of the work that we do and why we do what we do and why we're having this conversation, but also part engagement with you. We want to hear from you about this topic. We want to know how we can work together to bring more awareness and fuel the resiliency, especially in times that we're in right now. And this journey takes me basically supporting my sister who has multiple sclerosis and who lives a lifestyle medicine lifestyle and yet is very challenged. And so, welcome. Thank you for being here with me and celebrating this topic and my sister with me. So, again, my name is Jackie Solomon. I'm founder, executive director, president of Cease to Inspire Foundation. And we are a social justice education nonprofit, which is really focused on empowering the individual to take back our health, to regain health autonomy through the pillars of lifestyle medicine, understanding that stress and food as medicine are really powerful ways that once we learn, we can bring those tools back into ourselves, be better, healthy ourselves, and also share that with our community and our families. And at this moment, I will pass it over to my dear friend and colleague, for everything that has to do with food as medicine and health equity, Dr. Davis.
Hi, everybody. I am very excited to be here. I'm always excited to be talking to Jackie. We talk all the time about all of this information, and we're just passionate about seeing people well. That's the reality that we're in. A society that actually challenges us, with being healthy, which is our natural right. So I'll just introduce myself. I am a physician. I'm actually an internist, which is basically an adult physician. You have pediatrics, that's for children. Maternal is for adults. Family is like across the spectrum of the family. So I'm an internist, and I'm also boarded in preventive medicine, lifestyle medicine, and obesity medicine. And the reason that I even started looking for more knowledge is because I realized that with the way that our healthcare system is structured right now, I needed more tools to be able to help people. And I want to bring people back to the basics of health, which is that so much power is in our hands. And we really should have an environment that supports us in health. And so the challenge that we have is that we want to be healthy, but our environment has a lot of pressure, exerts a lot of pressure on us away from health. So there's that kind of pushback that's happening. But we can really gain the skills, the knowledge, the resilience to be able to, even in spite of that environment, still thrive. And that's what we're really trying to help people understand and provide them with so that they can move forward with those tools to empower themselves and live well.
Thank you so much. I also want to introduce who is not on screen today, but one of our supporters and our volunteers and our community culinary practitioners is Ms. Mayra Armas, and she is behind the scenes and she's facilitating conversations. So if you have any questions at any time that you would like to address after Dr. Davis and I share, please put your questions in the Q&A. If you have just information you want to share and just have comments, please add that to the chat. But if there's anything that you hear Dr. D and I talk about, anything that just sparks you curiosity, we want this to be engaging and interactive. So please just use the raise your hand button and we'll stop and we'll engage you and answer your questions. So please feel free to do that. And then at the end, we're going to introduce our four-part series that's going to be starting in July, and also some offerings how you can support Season and how learn how we can support you further. So we're going to jump right in. I'm going to introduce myself briefly and how I got here. And I think what's really important for activating people, I think for me at least, what really became empowering was understanding my why. And so I want to share with you my why, and then I'm going to introduce Dr. D to share her why. So if you could just give me a moment so I can share my screen. Okay. So I don't know if you can see that.
Not yet.
Okay.
Mhm.
Back here. Okay, we should be able to see it now. Yeah? Can you see that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, wonderful. So the topic of this really switched at the last minute. So we're going to be really in flow today because initially we just wanted to kind of introduce the entire topic of health equity. But that's going to become the series that you're going to be invited to join us in July. This topic was really watching how my sister, like I said, who has adopted so many lifestyle changes and improved her health. As a matter of fact, she's reversed two of the lesions in her brain through lifestyle changes and food as medicine, is still challenged with the extreme heat that's happening today. And it weighs on me very heavily every single day that we have our youth that are being diagnosed with these chronic diseases, and that we have people that are my peers that have chronic diseases, and how are they faring with this extreme heat? And we're just at the beginning of this, and our climate is shifting very rapidly, and we're not going to change back. This is going to continue. This is just the beginning. So this is why I really wanted to bring this message forward and invite Dr. D to help us learn how we can empower ourselves and take care of the people that we love to get us through this together. And we can, and we will, and we're going to learn that today. So this is the topic of the conversation today. And before we begin, I want to share that as an uninvited guest, I want to recognize with great honor and gratitude the privilege of living, working, and playing on the ancestral home of the Akimal Aram and Pipash peoples. And I pay homage to the elders past and present. This is my why. And you'll learn more about my story. If those of you that don't know me, you'll learn more about my story in the 4-part series. But those of you that do, in 2009, my family suffered an incredible trauma and tragedy. And the stress that followed that for many, many years created so many chronic diseases in our bodies that I almost lost my life several times. And it was through lifestyle changes, specifically food as medicine, and learning about how I could be an alchemist in my own kitchen, how I could be a pharmacist in my own kitchen. I took back my health and I was able to reverse my chronic disease and get off of all of my medication. And when you learn that you can do this for yourself, when you become the agent of your own well-being and health, there's nothing more that you want to do to make sure that everyone knows. And this is why we're here. Seeds to Inspire Foundation was a response to take what I had been through, what I had learned, and understanding how the stress, the incredible stress that I had experienced in my lifetime, but not only that, the stress adaptations, the ways that I had inherited ways of dealing with stress, of not dealing with stress, of not knowing how to deal with grief. These are the things that contributed to my chronic diseases manifesting and then manifesting in my children. So when I learned that I could take that back and I could do something about it, we created Seeds to Inspire Foundation. And our mission is to make certain that we create collaborative networks where we support one another from the ground up to regain that health. So I'll share more about this later, about how you can support us and we can support you. But that's my why. And I'm going to pass it over to my dear friend again, my colleague, Dr. D. But before that, I would like to introduce her in my favorite way. So Dr. Davis, can you share your creativity with us?
Absolutely. All right. Just getting this going. All right. I think everyone can see this. Yes. All right. America's health is a problem.
The single leading cause of premature death before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and after the pandemic is poor diet quality.
Whack, whack, whack. This whole thing is just whack. Whack, this whole situation is ridiculously whack. Health from this whack food with this whack mood. Whack cause we don't move, it's whack, it's just so whack, it's just whack. Whack, whack, this whole thing is just whack. Whack, this whole situation is ridiculously whack. Health from this whack food with this whack mood. Whack cause we don't move, it's whack, it's just so whack, so whack. This is whack, so you take the chips and soda off the rack, put it right back.
Cause obesity will sneak up on you in a sec in the 1980s, cracking black, push an entire community back. That was whack, but in 2020, same story, Jack. Except it's high fructose corn syrup, that's basically sugar crack. Minority communities for the ramp with the Big Mac. Or a box for jumping jack. Or a king who makes it your way like he's got your back. Listen to this. Then turn around, stab you in the back. BMI so I can't see the back. Arteries a clog with a nasty plaque. Get ready for a heart attack. Can't even believe that they put the blame on them because I can't make it around the track and not on the multiple resources that they lack. We're talking social determinants of health to be exact, cause lack of access to care is common for brown and black, and health disparities are quite the setback. We already know that this is so whack, whack. This whole thing is just whack. This whole situation is ridiculously whack. Health from this whack food, but this whack mood. Whack cause we don't move, this whack is just so whack, so whack. Whack. This whole thing is just whack. This whole situation is ridiculously whack. Health from this whack food, but this whack mood. Whack cause we don't move, this whack is just so whack, so whack. No, I'm not taking what I said back. CDC got all the statistics, Paso how we got stacks on stacks. Now they're falling off the rack. And every single year they will increase until we act. Cause this is so whack. No, I'm not smoking crack. Throwing that liquor back. Cause I don't do that. All I speak is real facts. 1977, McGovern tried to get us off this track. But all the food industries, the dairy, the meat, the salt, the sugar, the red pack, came out the war with the all clap back. Decided that they were not having that. Like big tobacco when it got snacked with evidence that six were cancer's favorite snack. Disregarded the facts, didn't listen to Simo Wise when he said your hands are dirty, you should wash that. Seems like it's about profit, and your life don't mean jack. Unless I got the whole thing where it's back. My hand can't get to faces fast enough to smack. I'm so over the effectiveness we lack. With hospitals selling every type of snack, kids TV advertising crap, there's a glow in the dark create dental plaque. Can you even grow mold on that? Red dye 40 listed on the back of the pack. Nah, I wouldn't need that. Whack. This whole thing is just whack. This whole situation is ridiculously whack. Health from this whack food, but this whack mood. Whack cause we don't move, this whack is just so whack, so whack. Whack. This whole thing is just whack. This whole situation is ridiculously whack. Health from this whack food, but this whack mood. Whack cause we don't move, this whack is just so whack, so whack. This game needs a new quarterback, whole new plan of attack. I won't sit back, watch lives fall right through the cracks. And if that means I catch some flack, cause I think lifestyles are way back. If you push lifestyle, then you're a quack. Research got my back, there's evidence, can you handle that? We need the basics back, it's as simple as that. Cause this is whack, 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 this is whack.
So this
Every
is
time. Moves me every single time, sis. Every single time. Please share.
So I'm not only a physician, but I'm an artist as well. And that's how I've always been. You know, split me down the middle. I was one side of me science, the other is art. So that's this video is what I call a modern day PSA, because what happened was I was in medical school. And then starting medical school and going through into residency where you're training to be a physician, you're really in the thick of it, actually learning from the book knowledge, you're applying it. That's what residency is. And I was just realizing kind of what the situation was from the standpoint of health, how much we are pushed to focus on reactive approaches and waiting essentially for things to happen and then to jump into trying to remedy the situation, which just logically, you know, it doesn't make sense, because a third of heart attacks and strokes, for example, result in sudden death. So a third of people, 33% of people, don't have the opportunity or the option or the chance to kind of reel it back and try again. You know, that's it. So I feel like we can't play with numbers like that when it comes to our health. We want to be on the other end, to actually be proactive and to protect our health where we are. So that was my frustration about the fact that our system doesn't work in that way. And it leaves people high and dry, because now they're really dealing with legitimate issues, chronic illnesses that are impacting the way they feel on a daily basis, impacting their families, impacting their ability to work. And all of that is like real life. That's what people are experiencing on a daily basis. And I just said, like, there's a better way to do this. So that was my creative commentary on the situation. And I've been the same passionate as ever since that time, working at that intersection of, okay, how can I really empower my patients to be able to take control of their health again? And it is possible because going to work every day, I work in primary care, I see that people want it. And when I talk to them about my type of practice, they'll tell me, oh, I looked you up on social media and I saw that's kind of what you were about. So then I came to see you. Or when I explain things, they're like, I love that you're focused on my health overall. You're trying to help me get control of this without just giving me a bunch of medications. And I'm like, that's what a physician should be there to do: support patients, educate patients, and really give them guidance on what they can do. I don't have your body, I don't have your life, so I can't be in control of your health. And that's why my job is to give that power back to you. So that is in a nutshell who I am, what I want to do, and what this video is about.
Thank you, Dr. D. And if you can just continue to show us the health equity piece. When did this awareness, when you were going through medical school, when you were understanding where these kind of like these vacuums, right, where your awareness was going, how did that lead to health equity? And then how your vision for where to take this information brought us at an intersection where you and I actually started working together and met.
So when I've been a part of the professional society that Jack and I met in, which is American College of Lifestyle Medicine, but I've been a part of that since medical school. So 2015, that was when I became a part of it officially, and I was in the trainees section, which is, medical students, residents. They had a little section for us to be involved, and I was one of the executive members, VP of I was VP of education. And then when I would go to the conferences and I would ask the speakers, okay, so this information is so important. How are we really helping communities that need this the most and are disadvantaged in some way? What are we doing to really get this out to everybody? And I always felt like the answers were either uninformed or just lacking. We don't know. That's a big topic that I don't even have the knowledge to address. It just wasn't a lot of thought in that. And so as I would continue to go to the conferences, that question would be asked, and I just continued to see that there were no answers. So finally, 2019, I was a resident at the time, and the current president at that time was the first Black president of ACLM, Dr. Dexter Sherney, and he himself was already thinking about, okay, ACLM has to take this type of stance on what are we doing about making health equitable for everybody. So he had that thought already. And then I had the thought of, okay, let's try to gather providers who are interested in working, on how to make health equitable and want to use lifestyle medicine as a vehicle to do that. So we started gathering a bunch of names of people at the conference who would be interested. And he made an announcement, and this wasn't even connected. He made an announcement that ACLM was moving in this direction to really be a force for change to use lifestyle medicine as a vehicle for achieving health equity. And so that kind of morphed into what became the HEAL Initiative, which I was co-chairing with my mentor sister, Dr. Terry Stone. And from there, we started this movement within ACLM to start to become aware of what are the needs of communities and how do we provide this medicine. And we started to learn a lot, which is that people have a lot of knowledge about themselves, and we need to come in as a support and a partner. And we are going to essentially empower them to do what they were already able to do, but just didn't have the resources in many ways. Because we realize that so much power is still in community. We live in a current society which is as it is, but when we look back at history, we see that the way that things have changed over time has always been rooted in community, and community actually creating the beginning of the movement. Civil rights, I always talk to Jackie about the civil rights movement to me as an example of how grassroots is the way that things change, because top down is what we like to describe as a way that things can change, sure, but a lot of times the top down is from somebody at the top seeing the grassroots. So grassroots was the root in the first place. And so that is how we see our involvement, which is to build community with people, support them, educate, and create this type of power. Basically link people to each other and access the power that is already there to help people move in the direction that they really do want to move in.
My gosh, thank you so much, because that brings me right into like why I do coaching. And again, when you start transitioning your life with these lifestyle changes, you start understanding that learning about yourself and how your body operates, learning about how these diseases manifest, learning that you have a beautiful system, an incredible, brilliant system that is designed for health. And you partner with individuals in your health team that remind you of that power, that remind you of the possibilities. Then you add a coach in there, which is what I do. And there's nothing better than to sit across either a screen or a table or chair from someone and watch that aha moment when they remember that they have the power to take back their health and do what they can do. That all they needed was to be reminded, to understand what's happening inside of their bodies, to understand how there's social determinants of health that we talk a lot about in health equity, that there's factors outside of our immediate control that affect our health, but there's so much that is within our control, and that we know how to make these changes. We just haven't quite applied them to this challenge yet. But we're resilient people. We're here. We have been here for generations, right? So it's so magical to be in that moment when somebody's like, wait, that's my story too. I can do that. I can do that. And that's why I love coaching and partnering with physicians. So I want to transition into Dr. D. If you could help us understand really specifically when we're talking about inflammation and we're talking about chronic pain like fibromyalgia, and that accompanies fibromyalgia and MS, and we're talking about these extreme heat that's coming on right now. Can you help us understand where do we begin? Someone that's starting this conversation new and is understanding that there's tools out there for us that have these diagnoses and the heat is coming on. Can you teach us a little bit about basics of lifestyle medicine and how these come together specifically through health equity?
So I think it lies in the foundation of our health, which is that, just like a host, I love to use this analogy because I really believe in it, because it works that way. It's like the way that we work scientifically applies across the board, from us as humans to the environment itself. Things act within a natural law. There's a certain way that things operate. I believe that this is how health is. Health is built on a foundation. So foundation for us in our life, what are the foundations? It's actually habits. We could think of habits as blocks. And if we lay these habits out, they become a really strong type of foundation that when stressors come upon us in life, we're able to be resilient in the midst of those stresses. And we actually see how that plays out. And I think that COVID was one of the opportunities to see what that really looks like when you have a strong foundation of health, how you weather something like that. And all of the data from COVID was very clear that individuals that succumbed to COVID or became very sick from COVID and may even still now be dealing with the consequences or the ramifications of having had a very inflammatory disease acutely, is that the foundation of health was not very strong. And so there was all of these opportunities for havoc to kind of to come through in the system. And that's what we see. It's someone had a chronic disease. They were older. That was another risk factor. But what we see is that in the US, age is actually synonymous with disease, because in other countries, people age and they don't have so many chronic diseases. Many times they're doing very well in certain areas where they don't have that modern world exerting pressure on them in the way that we do. So the pillars of lifestyle matter. And so what are these blocks that I'm referring to? I'm just going to pull up an infographic so that you can see what I mean. Ooh. Here we go. Here, perfect. So this is just a little graphic, and there are 6 pillars, and this is the terminology from ACLM. They like to use the word pillars. I like blocks because that house thing is just how I think about it. So we're building a foundation, and we have to set each of these blocks down. When you build a house, you don't throw blocks down at the same time. You put one block down, and then another block down, and then another block down. And you just keep repeating that over and over. And it's the repetition of the thing. It's the repetition of the putting down the blocks that creates this huge wall or this big foundation. So that's where habits come in. And so it's these 6 key areas that we want to always be mindful of, and actually begin to put effort and invest in these areas of our life to get it to a place where it's optimal for us. I think that nutrition, healthy eating is the biggest of the blocks. It's like that first layer of foundation, because our ability to function physically, which determines so much of how we live life, depends on what kind of materials are present for our cells to function. So I think of nutrition as what it is, which is that it's building materials, it's cellular machinery. So if you have a machine that's missing 6 different parts, it doesn't have the nuts and bolts, this belt's gone, this part's rusted over, it's not going to be working properly. Simple as that. So nutrition is the materials. If we don't have the right materials, we cannot build up or function in the way that we are designed to. Then we have the other 2. So I kind of think of nutrition in the middle. Then on the sides, the next blocks are movement and stress, because those 3 together, I think, take care of a majority of things. It's like the mechanism of how we really feel health from just a general standpoint. If we can highlight those, and we're pretty good. We still have other things to consider, but these I think are the 3 most important. So managing stress. If we are not managing stress, we end up developing a chronic state of stress, which is abnormal to the human body, and it creates disease, because your body's not supposed to be under chronic stress. Chronic stress is abnormal. We deal with acute stress. Your body's designed for that. But our modern world creates chronic stress that makes our emergency system, that mode, turn on and remain on, which is not what it's designed to do. It only has enough juice for like a couple of times. But the issue is that we're kind of wearing ourselves down with the fact that that system is constantly running. Then we have physical activity, which is one of the main ways that we dispel stress out of the body. So they're kind of together in that way. And I think of physical activity as the glue. So very, very important. These things are medicinal. And our modern world has actually conditioned us to move away from the kind of engagement with these medicines that we've always had. Then we have on the bottom, sleep. Sleep is one of those things that people don't consider. We're learning even more now how important it is. But sleep is something that calibrates your body. So if you're not sleeping well, your body cannot recharge. It's like your phone is running, and you never plug it in. It's gonna just die at some point. In our real life, what happens is that we're just drained. And yes, it does promote risk of disease. So sleep is a recharge that we need on a regular basis every day. Relationships can overhaul the whole thing, because if our relationships are not supporting us mentally and even physically, it can begin to erode some of those blocks. Toxic relationships drain people. They make them ill because you're not living in an environment that's safe and where you are able to thrive. Then we have cessation of tobacco. This one I've actually modified in my own understanding to say, to really just be awareness of self, because awareness is like that little flicker that starts a fire. And the fire is what you want. You want that energy, you want that power to live your life. Vitality is energy, all of that. So that comes from this awareness of self. And that is the beginning to any type of positive decision for anybody. The beginning of transformation, from what I've seen, has always been awareness. So those are the main blocks. And what I like to encourage my patients to do is you take the opportunity every day to lay one block at a time. It's not a race. It's a process, it's a journey. And it's beautiful because you're growing every day. So you're always in the positive. It's like, oh, look what I did today. Again, I'm doing better from yesterday. That kind of energy allows us to be on this health journey that is constantly and getting better. And then just one point, Jackie, as you asked about the health equity piece, as it relates to that, is that lifestyle medicine is the toolbox that we're handing people to empower themselves and take back control of their health.
Thank you so much. As we're nearing kind of like a little over the half point, we'd love to open up to questions. So please, we want to be in conversation with you. So if you have a question that you want to ask, let's take this opportunity to do that. Also, Doctor, I wanted to ask you if you could explain to us really, do you want to, yeah, there you go.
Yes, thank you.
If you could explain to us, please, a little bit more, because, okay, let me just go, because you talked about toxic relationships, and I realized that I think, in my opinion, and I really want you to chime in on this since you brought it up, is that toxic relationships are what I phrase as challenging relationships, relationships that you when you communicate with someone, you don't walk away feeling dignified and respected.
Oh,
Like your
no.
autonomy is questioned.
Mm,
Anytime I walk away from a conversation with someone that love is supposed to be at the center, but somehow I feel lesser than myself when I
mm,
walk away from that, those are the relationships that I really bring forth in the coaching, is that interpersonal stress is an area where we're not focusing nearly enough on, that we're not
right.
putting enough attention to, and understanding that that's a silent killer. The stress of that interpersonal stress, because we've been socialized and conditioned to accept and normalize certain behaviors, we allow unconsciously, and we forgive a lot unconsciously behaviors that are actually making us sick. And so, really, where my work is focused on is that food as medicine and that interpersonal stress, and understanding how those factors really, once we start addressing them, you'd be amazed at how quickly you start recovering and how quickly you start feeling better, and it does take support. So much of the work that we're doing is siloed. And we're not understanding that we're doing so much of the same work from different angles. And this is where the beauty of the intersections exist. When we realize that in community, we are all working at the same kind of root, but we're not seeing the entire thing. We're still just siloed. So when we come together in these conversations, we start realizing that we have so much in common in what we're doing. And instead of saying, look what I'm doing, look what you're doing, look what we're doing, but I'm doing it from this angle, from this angle. So can you help us understand really specifically with like autoimmune, with stress, how does that interpersonal stress affect our health?
Mm-hmm. So I agree with you. The way that you explain that about it being a silent killer, I think is just so spot on, because it's just happening without awareness. And like you said, there's a conditioning that has and is still happening with how people are taught to interact with each other, and what is allowed, what is considered okay, what is considered, that's just kind of what this relationship is supposed to look like. And I see this kind of maybe not resurgence, but there's an awareness that's building around relationships, and people now identifying that, the way that I've been taught to interact is actually not something that's serving me, and it was never serving me. And I have to think about what is going to meet my needs as a person. And how do I navigate being able to um, ask for that in a way that is dignified and find that if I'm not finding it in a current relationship, or having been exposed to that because I didn't have any other choice growing up in that type of environment. So I think it is a silent killer. I think that culturally, there are just a lot of norms. So I tell patients this all the time: culture is not always correct. It's very common, but it's not always correct. And we see that kind of culturation has happened with the way that we interact with relationships, where just dynamics of gender, dynamics of um, how people are taught to interact, what roles they're supposed to play. And I think that it's taught a lot of people to just deal and accept without speaking up about things that make them uncomfortable and having some sense of self-advocacy. And I think it actually trickles out into just to society, because now I see, even with my patients, a lot of difficulty with self-advocacy as it comes to issues of health. Patients will say, "Oh no, the doctor," and I just never asked. I'm like, "Hold up." I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. You have a right as a patient to say, I didn't understand that. Can you explain that to me better?" And if you don't feel comfortable in that interaction, you have all the right to say, "This doctor is not for me." Moving on to the next person. So I think that that's spot on. The other thing you mentioned about stress and autoimmune diseases. So this is just my personal experience, having been practicing independently for the past 2.5 years. So yes, I'm a young doc, but I've been in training for like 9 years. So yeah, it all together is quite some time. And then what I've kind of picked up is that autoimmune diseases are not just the immune system. It's the immune system in the context of what's happening in your body. And I've seen that stress, particularly chronic stress, particularly very, very high levels of stress that kind of like developed rapidly and were sustained, have been triggers to people developing autoimmune diseases across the board. And then COVID has kind of come in to that realm. There is an underlying inflammatory process that is going on with COVID, and then these cases of long COVID that have become more we are now aware that that's a real thing. We called it something from the 1980s that no one really understood. And now we're realizing there's like a process going on that we still don't really understand, which is chronic fatigue syndrome. Some people might be familiar with those terms, but the stress piece is where, just as a society, we've kind of not paid attention to it. And our bodies are telling us, actually, no, this is really important. So I do think that stress is something that we don't think of as important as other types of pillars, and we really have to move into this place where now we see it as equally important and begin to apply the tools that we need to manage our stress in a healthy way. And I also think that healing happens in community. So like you said, you know, people may feel like they don't have all of what they need, but when you're in community, there's this type of synergy that happens, and the presence of the community just kind of takes everybody together. It's like a tide. They say all the rising tide elevates all boats. I know I'm not saying it exactly right, but the rising tide brings up all boats. So that is community. Everybody is empowered together, and everyone's able to get help. Wherever they are, it may not be the same type, but we can all access something powerful within that space.
Thank you so much, because again, this is a conversation that I think is so valuable, is so needed, should be centered specifically in health equity conversations. I think it's vital that we do that now and have these conversations. And I'll share very transparently that I had very, very domineering, very oppressive, challenging relationships in my life. And when food as medicine was introduced to my health journey, I was able to really identify how I was feeling in those interactions. I was feeling well enough that
Oh,
when the
wow.
charges showed up, I didn't go directly. My default wasn't into fawning and making it okay and making, reasoning it out. All of a sudden, because my body was healthier and my brain was healthier, all of a sudden it was like, yeah, I don't, this doesn't feel good. I'm going to say something. And I didn't have the space or the energy or the capacity to deal with the consequences of standing up for myself, the consequences of using my voice and saying, this is not okay. I didn't have it in me because I could already foresee, oh, if I do that, this and this and this and this and that, I'm going to have to deal with this. But when I was feeling better and I didn't have all of these pharmaceuticals flowing through my blood and I was feeling better, all of a sudden I was like, you know what? I did have the capacity. I did have the energy to hold whatever was going to come of that because I deserve to be treated as well as I was feeling. So I really appreciate you sharing this. And this is why I specialize in group dynamics and making certain that we heal together in group. Because there's, of course, a coach and a client, there's a connection there where there's trust and there's vulnerability and there's support. But when you bring community together and you just facilitate with knowledge and education and you watch the community bring all of their answers together, there's a dynamic there. There's an energy and a connection between the community that holds, and I'll venture to say there's an ancestral wisdom that comes alive, and a lot of these diseases have been adaptations and mutations through poor health, through our environment for generations. But we have the power to respond to those inheritances in a different way that these diseases don't have to manifest or they don't have to remain. And I think that that's what's really like what's so powerful for me to share.
Yep.
And I did have a question, but I just want you to respond instead. Sorry.
Oh, no, I absolutely um agree what you said about that. So your transformation was awareness. Back to what I was mentioning, it's like that, it's the little trigger, like the light bulb that comes on, and you can facilitate that with how you're nourishing your body using those tools. Everything about it makes you more aware. Your clarity of mind makes it so that things just start making sense. Now you're like, wait, hold up. Right. When we might have been feeling in a fog and not sure what to do, when your body is operating at that optimal level, things become clearer and you can make those better decisions for yourself. So yeah, I mean, man, I can't stress enough that community. So I'm so excited. I'm so glad that you're doing the group. You're going to be doing this group coaching. It is going to be so powerful. It's so needed. People really are going to be able to heal and find the tools that they need to continue to take care of themselves. They access it in there, then they're going to be able to take it with them on their way, throughout life.
Absolutely. And that's going to kind of lead me into what I'm going to ask you next. I'll just introduce that we are going to be launching in the beginning of August our first two group coaching sessions. They're going to be 6-week sessions where we're going to be, one group is going to be focused on diagnoses of fibromyalgia and multiple sclerosis. And then the other one will be diagnoses of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, high cholesterol, and type 2 diabetes. And we're going to come together in community and start creating those dream visions because it's my dream for community that we start creating blue zones in the homes. And I'm going to coin that phrase.
Oh,
That's
wow.
my vision, right? Because
I
through
love that.
policy and through the macro, we're all fighting on that. We're all in these conversations. But again, you and I have discussed this, and we know that is through the grassroots. This is where the nourishment and this is where the medicine truly lies. We just have to come together and bring that together so we can create this beautiful tonic. And we start this in the homes, and we start this by empowering our children, by stopping these diseases from taking root in our babies, bringing forth the next generation of informed young people that know what health feels like, that know what critical thinking it feels like, know what standing up and never losing your voice and your autonomy feels like, and understanding how empowered that they are to create a world of their own choosing, right? And consciousness and equity. Like that's the next generation. So we want to focus on helping families create those in the home and then let them be the pillars and the mentors in their social circles. And let's bring this all together. So I'll be talking about that more. We'll talk at the end about how you can, like I said, how you can support us and reach us. But before we close, can you share with us what are some tools and takeaways that someone that hears this can say, like, where do I start? Like, how do I even talk about this with my doctor? How do you help people start beginning to advocate for themselves?
I think the first thing is number one, you're important enough to be taken care. You are important enough to take care of. So your life is valuable enough for your health to matter because you matter. And I remember actually telling a patient these very words when I started seeing him. And even just to think about this patient of mine, he's doing so much better. He's lost like over 70 pounds, close to 100 pounds. His diabetes controlled. He's from he was like nines, now he's in the six. His blood pressure was stroke level, completely controlled, you know, and I just remember having that conversation with him when I said, you're important enough to be taken care of. Like you value as a Black man, you value. And so how are we going to actually start doing that? And he came back to me. This was like maybe a year after he had, made those changes, and it took a while. It wasn't like the first time. First time was like, I was like, I don't know. I don't know if anything's can but no, I just kept at it. And I just every time I saw him, I said, are you doing that? Let me keep reminding him. And he said that when I said that, that's what stayed with him. He's like, I'm important enough to take care of. And I said, like, it just made me happy to see that that's what he actually was feeling. So I think that's the first thing. Your health is important because you are important. You should have good care. You should be able to receive good care. And you are the one in the driver's seat of your care. I think, yes, we have come from this type of paternalistic approach in medicine because culturally that's what it was. The doctor was like this, godlike being. That's kind of how it was. This level of power that they had to direct people's health. But that was kind of what was that's how it was structured to be, just because of the times. And no, we realize that doctors are consultants because people have a level of expertise in themselves that also needs to be considered with the knowledge that we have. So when we do that together, now we have a partnership with your doctor to help you have the best health, because we don't know everything that's going on with you. You have a lot of insights about things. Patients tell me, oh, that medication didn't work because I'm having side effects. I'm like, okay, well, that you're not going to take it. If I'm prescribing you this thing, you're not going to take it. So how is my expertise helping you in that point? We come together and we're like, okay, so that's not for you. Let's switch over to this medication. But I wouldn't know that unless I had that information from you. So I think it's basically understanding that you have the right to that type of care. And so thus you can speak and advocate for that right. And I think that's also something that's been cultured where people don't want to speak up for fear of just disgruntling the physician. We have some physicians who still operate in that type of energy, and they will, patients will feel unheard. And then the system itself makes it so that there's not a lot of time for patients to bring questions sometimes. So people are trying, rushing through because they only have 15 minutes, sometimes even 10. I have some colleagues who have 10-minute appointments, so and it's like, this is part of where we are. But with what we have, we can still navigate with some tools, which is to say, here's one, for example, when you come to the doctor, you can have a list of questions about things that you want to talk about. There is only so much time that we have, right? So that is something that we always have to be mindful of. And I have to tell patients, okay, let me get those first 3 really important things and we're going to tackle it, because we don't have enough time for more because it's only 20 minutes that we have. Then I'm going to definitely address that at the next time, or I'm going to send you a message about it if it's something that can just be answered over my chart. It's those kind of things that allow for that visit to be more productive for everybody, than not having those things at the forefront for what you want to talk about. And then knowing that I have health goals. So I would like to get healthier in these ways. Are there resources that you can provide for me? I love my patients who are so proactive. I mean, I appreciate all my patients, but when they come in and see that they're really like, I need help, I just need you to show me, I'm like, let's go. I'm like, no, I know that I can work with you because you have this type of you're activated now in that proactive state. So I can really serve you the best I can as your physician.
Wonderful, thank you. So again, we're getting so close, but I wanted to ask you 2 final questions. One is, when we're discussing food as medicine, and we're dealing with like people that are accustomed to or have a lifestyle right now that they need to begin to transition. So we're transitioning from the culture of convenience, which is bags, bottles, cans, and boxes, all that. Like what are basics that we can help people see that this is something that is achievable right where we are with where we are? Can you give us a few tips? And then can you follow that with introducing our 4-part series that we're going to be launching in July?
So I think that you start wherever you are. That's just life. Any transformation has to begin somewhere. And we make it harder for ourselves because we're thinking about this huge thing over here. That creates like mental stress. The frame is not helpful. The mindset is not helpful because we go in there with like, oh man, you feel the weight of that task that you're trying to achieve. So you want to break it down into bite-sized pieces, right? They always say, how do you eat an elephant in totality? You just eat one bite at a time. So anything can be accomplished over time if we just keep at it. This is a natural law. So because we know that that is guaranteed, we just need to start somewhere. So I tell my patients, wherever you are, what are some things that are low-hanging fruit? For a lot of people, it's okay. I can start cutting out some of the processed foods. I can start cutting down on the soda. I can start cutting down on the processed treats, sweet treats, chips, whatever. Okay, fast food. Well, let's start to cut down on those things. Then I think about fruit. People talk about preparing things takes a lot of time. It's true. There is time that's needed. When you build skills, it becomes easier. That takes some time. But you can start with fruit because all you have to do is wash it. So I always tell patients, you can eat more fruit. That's a great place to start. Most people don't eat fruit every day. And this is the sample I get from talking to patients every day. Most people don't eat fruit every day. So like that's an easy place where you can get to eating at least 2 fruits a day. Doing that consistently will make a difference with how you feel. Starting with movement. Let me just have a little 10-minute walk after I eat, just as a practice to start doing. That little thing, it seems so minuscule, but it makes a difference because the data actually shows us that you start to see differences in your glucose levels by consistency of exercise, even for 10 minutes. So that's how powerful these things are, that even a small amount makes a difference. And then the last question you had was, I think you said food as medicine. How does that kind of, with what we eat, I think about it as environment. Here's an analogy. We have a hydrangea that we planted in this area that was full of sun, just really, really sunny. And it was dying. It was not thriving at all. All we did was lift it from that place to a place that's more shaded. And come this summer now, the thing is blooming like never before. And we're just like, what in the world? It was almost like magic. We were completely shocked at how just moving it. We didn't do anything else. Yes, we continued to water, but that was enough, the change of environment. And so those shifts we can make, small shifts in our environment immediately around us, if we keep at it, just doing what we can, it really will build momentum over time. I've seen it so many times. I've seen it confirmed in people's transformations of their health. They always started somewhere, but they had the right mindset that they did develop to continue with being consistent. And they figured out the tools that help them to stay consistent. And that was not something that was difficult for a lot of them. It became more intuitive. They just started kind of listening and following what they felt.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, if you could just introduce our 4-part series that we're doing
I'm
in July
sorry.
briefly. No, of course. And just share with our community what that's going to look like and how people that want to find you and learn more about you.
So the 4-part series that we have basically different topics that we want to engage with our community. We want to start having these conversations just about health. We want people to start talking more about health, that, yeah, we all need to get into this mindset of let us get healthy together, because we see that that's not the push that we're already having. Okay, we're going to create that push that we're going to start getting healthy together. So topic for the first one is just lifestyle medicine and health equity, how that comes together. And we're just kind of going to deep dive into that a little more. The second topic is our health and the healthcare system. how those are related. The third one is, what is health? We have lots of information floating around about health, but what is it really? And then how we take our health back, how we actually address health inequity, as with our community approaches, using community as the place of healing. So Jackie, I'm just gonna let you give us the dates on that, but I did want to report the topics that it will really be an opportunity for us to engage with people. So it's not just us talking, it's going to be a conversation. People will share their thoughts and we're like, oh, that's what you think? Let's talk about it.
Absolutely. And I'm going to share my screen so people can be connected with us and sign up for following, any of our programming. But the dates for the webinars will be the Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, July 10th, July 17th, July 24th, and July 31st, where we're going to go deep dive. And again, we want to have this be an interactive, engaging conversation. We want to be in conversation with you. We want to talk at you. So please share and invite people that you feel are activated and want to join this conversation and bring this forward. So you can reach us at any of these social media. You can connect with us. If you're interested in having us talk or any of our programming, we have Teaching Kitchen, we have lifestyle medicine classes for children and families. We also do our flagship program, which is Save a Jumpstart, which is an 11-day health immersion where you experience what culinary medicine does through food. You get a physician education, lifestyle medicine. You get your biometrics tested before and after, and you get to be group coach with me. So if you're interested in that, please reach out through Seeds to Inspire Foundation, or if you're just interested in coaching, please reach out to me at my private practice, which is Angel in the Stone. And again, Dr. D, can you share where people can find you?
Yes, I can pull that up here too. Really just to, actually, I don't even have to do that. MGD the Doc. Everything is 3 letters. MGDTHEDOC. That's my IG handle, and it's also the same as my website, where you can find all information on me.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here. And again, if you're interested and you want to share and you want to invite us to partner with you and bring screenings, workshops, webinars, we're excited, we're activated, and we're ready to do this. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you will see us and be with us in July. Take care.
Excellent.